Hello there, Seraphim17 once again. This is the wonderful 101, 101% hard walkthrough. This is the first real mission of the game. It is Operation 1A, Blossom City Outskirts. I think from this point onwards, guys, I'm going to say hardest difficulty, because the 101 and the 101, it's a bit of a mouthful, it's coming out awkward, and I don't really want to bore you all with the intros, as, you know, procedural as they are and as useful as they can be. So here is the first fight. You saw a little bit of this in my introduction. This is me, you know, playing to kill this time, not playing to instruct, so we're going to be all business here. We're going to use the Unite Sword, and we're going to take out the remainder of these goo enemies. This particular enemy, as you can see, which I've just recruited, the larger one is the Geodoon, and the smaller ones are the Dogus. You begin every mission with a base amount of wonders, depending on how many you've collected in your travels, so you need to be aware of this, because I don't have a full 100, and thus I cannot do a full 100 attacks until I have them available to me. So this mid-90s looking Godzilla monster is called a Hagone, and he is very dangerous, and he's dangerous because he's kind of awkward, and I don't do very well against him on this moment. You can block this, so get the block on him, get the counter. I'm using the claws because I was led to believe that they were quite effective against him, and I should have used something more powerful here to kill him once he was stunned, because if I'd have done that, I would not have paid the price, because I am getting hurt after using far too many batteries here. So I didn't have enough batteries to avoid that attack. It cannot be blocked, it can be avoided, but luckily enough I did do the Ukemi, and I immediately go with the claws to bridge open his armor. Once it's open, he's stunned for a little while, so what I recommend doing is I recommend sending in your team by Unite Morphing and using the, you know, team attack instead of yourself to send a couple swords his way to do some damage, a couple of claws his way, a couple of whips his way, and all the meantime smack him with whichever weapon you enjoy the most. For me, it's the fist. I love punching dudes, and here comes another move. So, missed my Ukemi, I was trapped in the middle of the rocket, all my mistakes there, guys. You just have to be aware that when he starts to close those wings, if you're anywhere near them, you take massive damage, so just be aware. And he is a pretty simple enemy on his own, but I just did not play that very well. The more you fight him, the better you'll get at him, obviously, and the more and easier success you'll have. And you're going to need it, because in one of the Kaku Regas, which are the challenge room on this game, you fight 3 of them at the same time, with a limited 101 members of only 50 people, and it is one of the most challenging fights on the game, because it fights almost nothing like anything you fought before. It's a really strange hit and run kind of challenge, and it kicked my ass for a very long time, I'll say that much, and that was only on hard, so on this difficulty, probably even worse. So a couple things to bear in mind while you watch this. I'm not going to be smashing everything, I'm not going to be exploring everything and picking everything up or going in all the toilets like I normally would when I play, because this is a walkthrough. You don't need to see me spending needless time exploring and things. It's incredibly fun to do so, but it's a waste of your time. I'm just going to try and show you through the game. And every so often, there's going to be moments like this, where I have to transfer the gamepad onto the screen to show you what's happening. The puzzle here is pretty simple. There's a code you have to put in. I think it's something like 235 or 245. If you look between the television and your controller, you can see the code that's expected of you. I'm trying to give you a good idea of how this works here. I was having a little bit of difficulty getting the fist to form so I could twist the dials, but these moments are an interesting use. See, 235 is what you need. It's a very interesting use of the controller, but it's kind of a nightmare as well at times, because it controls very weird. Some of them are great, some of them are horrible. I admire the creativity, but sometimes you just want to play, and these moments can kind of really frustrate. And if anybody knows how to get rid of that fucking thing that was blocking the screen at the bottom that's like, you know, pick a me, do this, do that little menu that pops up on Wii U, please leave a comment, because every time these situations happen, I have to deal with that bullshit, and you can't really see what I'm doing, and when you full screen it, the quality is questionable, and sometimes you need to see both screens, so the screen-in-screen features is really useful. So these enemies are a nightmare, these fellas here. I believe they are called the Duras. There's two versions of them. There's Duras and Suri Duras, and they differ with the weapons that they use. These are the drill ones, and the technique to kill them, for me, look at that. Big damage, but I somehow land the Ukemi. Look at that. There's just so much chaos happening. Just there's a timing to the fall, so just get that timing, and sometimes you can pull stuff like that off. It's surprising how effective it can be when you know your timing. But build the biggest bomb you can, and then Wonderliner, cancel, Wonderliner, cancel, Wonderliner, cancel into the enemy, and watch the life it takes off. There is literally no attack that will hurt this enemy as much as these Wonderliner line attacks. Watch this. Watch his life. Oh no, I'm trying to hit him with a drill. Every so often I pick these weapons up and then I remember why I don't use them so much, because they're kind of shitty. There's another Ukemi after a pretty sloppy hit, because this enemy is very fast. You do not see these until like mission 6 in the main game, but you know, this is the hardest difficulty, so they throw stuff at you really early. That's me fucking the Wonderliner up and pulling a few swords out. I think I'm trying to build my combo so that to see if I can pull off the platinum on the score, because normally when you use the bomb and the Wonderliner you get shit rank every single time because it gives you no style points. But there goes the Dura. I think that's his name. You know, I might be mistaken. You have to run towards the tanks to trigger the grading screen, and it's going to introduce us to the Wonder Jump mechanic. So every so often you're going to be using this context sensitive jump to traverse some kind of cutscene moments. It's not 100% flawless, and occasionally it can be a little fiddly, but for the most it works exactly as it should. It's very rare that I complain about some of those moments, so that's not too bad at all. But the rank was pretty shitty, but we'll live. Here is a Hoedown, I think this guy's called. He's an armoured tank. The armour can be destroyed by the hammer. It can be damaged with pretty much everything except for maybe the sword. I think certain weapons bounce off it. If you reflect its attack like that and knock it over, you can throw it. But you'll notice my team was doing a little bit of a spaz there because I was pressing the throw button and the prompt takes a while to turn up. Whenever that tank is on its bum, you can hit it with the whip and do like a unique whip attack that slams it into the floor, which is incredibly powerful. Really cool to do as well. The tanks themselves are not that challenging, but when they come in groups with others, they can be a big pain in the ass. But throw the hammer on, run through the hazards. Whenever you hold the hammer, things that land above you will not damage you unless they're very specific kinds of damage. And then once you get across here, a couple of the Dugos are going to turn up. So just pull out the big sword, sweep them with a few cyclones, and then start doing this traversal puzzle here. So, at the beginning of every level, they take away all your team, they take away all your batteries that you've got, even though the levels themselves are continuous, and it's one of the things that is obviously there for balance, but I don't really like, because this game, when you do not have a full team, is significantly less fun to play, because you try to do moves you've been doing. Oh, this is funny as well, see this? You might be wondering what the hell is Chris doing there, and I was wondering the same, because I was screaming bullshit. I was like, it's not letting me attack, I can't attack, what's happening? And in my stupidity, I've noticed something that keeps happening to me, and it might happen to you, so it's good to know. The D-pad on the Wii U controller is just underneath the analog, and whenever I try to do the cyclone, which is to spin a 360 on the analog, occasionally, because I've got quite fat thumbs, I catch the D-pad. And if you catch the D-pad, it changes the screen on the controller to your wonderful ones and allows you to swap them out. But the problem is, it changes the input as well. So when you go to attack, if you're on that screen, it selects wonderful ones. So I was unable to attack because unbeknownst to me, I'd pressed a button on the pad. Easy mistake to make, you want to avoid it because it can get you hurt. And right there I had the perfect opportunity to do some damage, and I'm stood there like a twat holding a giant fist wasting my batteries. So it was really frustrating, but it's my mistake, guys, nothing to do with the game. Like, the D-pad is super sensitive on this pad, but that's a good thing. You don't want a dogshit one like the 360, which is hands down the worst D-pad I've ever used. But here is another Hoedown with some Dogus. Just build those weapons as big as you want, make sure you've got batteries in reserve just in case you need to avoid, get out of dodge, and one of the things that's quite confusing on this game is when you think everything's dead, there's usually a little Dogu off in a corner somewhere right now where you can't see. Actually, this is just a continuous mission. So the best thing to do is team attack, because your team generally go towards where the enemies are. They're smarter than you, they know where to look. And I wish there was a a lock-on feature on this game like there is in Anarchy Reigns and Metal Gear Rising, where you toggle it, but instead it uses a very innovative system of team attacking. And I mentioned in my tutorial that I don't really like it. My criticism of it is because it lasts only a few seconds and then you have to re-engage it, and I feel lock-ons are something that we have moved away from in gaming, but at the same time there is certain circumstances that they suit perfectly. And a good example would be, you know, when you're juggling a big enemy, occasionally in the chaos of everything happening, you'll start comboing away from the enemy, even though you're holding towards him, just because, you know, you're trying to do spin moves or back and forth moves and stuff, and it's easy to do it. It's you know, the flaws of being a human, and you'll have this massive juggle going, it'll look amazing, it'll feel amazing, and then all of a sudden you'll like spin off to another direction, and you're like, what the fuck am I doing? And a lock-on would stop that from happening. And no doubt, if you practice enough, you can probably get into a good rhythm of re-engaging the lock while you're doing combos, because you can, in fact, use your team attack while you're doing cyclone moves, or combos, or specials, and it's probably more advanced play, but it can be very tricky to do. So this fella here, he's called a Dai-Do-Gu, I think, something like that. And I made a big mistake then. When you stun him with the team attack and he turns yellow and enables you to juggle him, I tried to build my fist too big. And in the duration of building my fist, he recovered from the stun and he counter-attacked me. And that is just a sloppiness on my part. What you want to do is you want to put him in the air, you want to start a team attack on him to keep him in the air, and then it will give you the time to charge a bigger fist or a bigger move and then do some real damage to him. Once he's in the air, he is yours, and you will destroy him if you know what you're doing. I like to alternate combos. I like to generally start with what I'm using, do a cyclone, then send the computer to do a whip combo, then do another cyclone or another jump and launch, and send the computer to do a spinning pistol hit and maybe a couple of swords. And I kind of combine computer-controlled moves with my moves to keep them there, keep them hitting, keep them stunning. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It's something you have to kind of get a feel for. Ooh. So the turtle enemies can be infuriating if you don't know how to fight them, and even if you do. That was a mistake right there. I tried to do a cyclone, I accidentally did a stinger. They're called Gandang, or something like that. It's a really strange G word. When there's two of them really close, if you stand by their front paws but not near their face, you can counter both of them in unison, and then you can attack them, knock them over, and punish them. And I really should be using sword here, or perhaps whip, because I kept missing with my hammer. The cool thing is, you can do a hammer move and immediately cancel it into Unite Guts, just in case to flip them back over. And you can turn a potentially difficult fight into something very interesting and very, very quick. Also, the whip does a unique attack on their tails, I believe, if you stun them or if you're close to stunning them. Couple of things to know. Never stand in front of them. They do a very fast head thrust. And also, never engage one without knowing what the other's doing, because the other will do ground-based pillars of fire, just like Phantom back in Devil May Cry, you know, just like Burial, Devil May Cry 4, and they will come out of the ground and they will mess up your day. And it can be very frustrating fighting two of them in different spaces, so always try and keep them together, always try and get them in that loop of stunning them, flipping them, and crushing them. I know it looked easy when I did it then. If you're a pro player, that probably looks slow and sloppy. You know, it doesn't really matter. At the end of the day, if you handle it wrong, it can be very tricky. Just like this, double hoedowns. So, if they stagger their gunfire at you, you will be coming out of Unite Guts just in time to take another one. And there are a couple of ways to avoid this, but they're very tricky to do. One of them is, the instant the projectile flings off of your pudding, if you press cancel morph, and immediately you lose your words and sound like you can't speak, and immediately, Unite Guts again, you'll be able to defend. However, the conditioning to do that without thinking, to get that, autonomically, is very hard, because it's a safety blanket. Unite Guts is kind of is like, I pressed it and now I'm safe. And here, watch. See? I could have easily cancelled out of that, done it again, and stopped the other guy from hitting me, but it's something I just haven't quite got comfortable with doing just yet. So this fight is a lot more sloppy than it needed to be, really. Another good thing to do here is to use the bombs. If you freeze them with the bombs, you can then unite morph into hammer and then crack both of their armor. And then once their armor's off, you can damage them with anything. See, that is amazing. I love that. Whenever they're stunned, you can pick them up with the whip, smash them with that unique hit. This encounter is very loud because all the shit falling down. But here is a quick traversal puzzle. You just have to do a Wonderliner ring around it. When it turns rainbow coloured, it means you'll pick it up, and then you have to use it to guard yourself from the explosions. I personally haven't tried using the hammer to get through this zone. It could work, but we already have full batteries. We don't have to waste time with the batteries. If you come back towards the screen rather than the way I just went, you can do an extra fight and do some of the secret missions, but this is just a guide, folks, to get you through the game. This right here is a Dark Art, I think it's called. This is one of those enemies that's super fun to fight, but every so often... Oh, that was a mistake. It looked good, but it was a mistake. So to do that, if you have 100 members in your team and you draw a P, you will do the platinum logo and it does massive damage. The problem with it is it uses nearly all your batteries and it never does as much damage as you think it would. There might be some scenarios where it's absolutely fantastic, I just haven't found them, and instead I'm just gonna beat this dude up. To do the rocket, if you've not read the instructions or you're just curious or you've never bought it, you just have to tap A. Keep on tapping jump and it'll cancel from the jump into the rocket, and the more that you tap it, the higher it goes. My philosophy with both rocket and tombstone is I do the tombstone whenever I'm too high and the enemy starts falling from my juggle to get some damage off on it. Whenever, you know, I'm feeling like I'm doing too many of the same combos or I have an enemy stunned, I try to do the rocket because I dream of launching somebody with it with me. I've not really been that successful doing that, but it's super fun to watch. But that's the end of the first real mission, guys. I hope it wasn't too confusing, and I will see you in the next part of the guide. Thank you very much for watching, and you take care now.